Hi, I'm Dr. Jennifer Cearns. I am an anthropologist focusing on artificial intelligence here at the University of Manchester. As an anthropologist, my role is to study what it means to be human, essentially, how we live, relate, and how we make meaning across different cultural contexts. And as an anthropologist of AI, more specifically, I guess I bring a more global and a more human-centered perspective, perhaps, than some of my more technical colleagues, because I ask not just what these technologies do and how they work, but more actually how they become meaningful, how people across the world experience them and shape them through their everyday encounters with the technology. So my research explores, I think, probably one of the most human aspects of emerging technologies, our emotional relationships with AI that develop within more intimate contexts. Over the last decade or so, I would say AI has moved from more technical domains into some deeply personal areas of life. For example, it's now used a lot as a therapist, as a romantic companion. It is used to support people going through grief. It is used as a memory aid for people with dementia, and it's now even actually being used in embryo selection in some parts of the world. And so these technologies don't just process data, they reshape how we care, how we trust, and how we relate to ourselves and to others. And so my current project, which is called Artificial Intimacy, is, as far as I know, the first cross-cultural ethnographic study of how people build trust with AI in emotionally intimate settings. I'm, over the next few years, hoping to be doing work in communities across the world, in the UK, the US, Korea, China, India, Germany, Israel, Australia. I've probably missed one or two there, to understand how local culture and language and emotional life shape the way that we engage with these technologies in some of the more intimate aspects of human experience. I've previously written about grief bots. So when people essentially try to use a tool like ChatGPT to bring back a deceased loved one to talk with. I've also written about romantic AI, people developing very strong romantic relationships with a chatbot. And I've written about the ethics of using predictive learning and intelligence systems within the public sector more broadly. And so my work about AI as a technology of intimacy reframes these systems to look at how they become part of the way that we as humans perform care, kinship, and belief in a digital age. But my work isn't just looking at technological innovation, it's also about inclusion, because I think that too often emotional AI is designed without the voices of the people it's meant to support involved in that process. And so ultimately my goal is to contribute to a more culturally sensitive or adaptive and ethically grounded AI system that can start to understand the emotional and moral complexity of being human. So a couple of examples from my work so far. I did some research looking at predictive AI systems used by local government to anticipate future harm or risk to children as part of the sort of local welfare system. And these algorithms are, of course, trained on vast data sets. And I've argued that in a way, these systems and actually even our use of tools like ChatGPT function a bit like modern day divination tools. They shape the decisions about people's lives through a sort of form of machine-led prophecy. And while we might not usually think of ChatGPT as akin to, the oracle at Delphi, as it was for the ancient Greeks, if we look at these technologies within their cultural context, we can start to see how they are broadly serving quite similar human needs, sort of offering certainty amidst uncertainty. And so the reason I think this is important is that digital trust and security are not just technical challenges, they're also cultural ones. Over the next 20 to 25 years, actually the next 10 years, we're going to need to navigate not just how to make AI safe, but also how to make it meaningful, systems that reflect a broad range of human values, acknowledge our vulnerabilities, and that can adapt to the emotional realities of being human. We're facing a very near future, actually, where machines might know our memories, in some cases potentially become a sort of outsourced memory for us, where machines might model our feelings and influence us in our more vulnerable moments. And so my work ultimately asks, how do we prepare for that? What do we need to be considering? And perhaps more importantly, how can we shape it together to include the breadth and variety of what humanity has to offer?